Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
On my own this week. Well, hello everyone. Sam's obviously not joining me today. Must have melted.
Don't get too excited. I'm coming. I needed a cold refreshment, mate, and I'm sure you've probably got tea or coffee. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why, because it's bloody melting again. We've hit May, and May bank holiday came, and it was pissing with rain and horrible as it tends to be. And then people are back to work. Not that bank holidays apply for us because we do a stupid, weird job and none of that ever makes sense and never applies. But people are back to work and now it's bloody boiling hot again. So cheers to you, mate. Cold drink.
Anyway, yeah, I'm on the coffee, so good to see the beer. Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
Yeah. You all good? How's things?
Very good. I mean, hey, not so long ago, we were working together in the flesh.
Bloody miracle, wasn't it? I mean, we recorded before we worked together, but then released the episode after we worked together, which was probably a good thing because we couldn't anticipate. We probably would have had arguments and hated each other. No, it was brilliant. It was so nice to be back together.
Good to see you. Yeah, and I'm well. Thank you, Ben. I had a good, as you say, I was working the bank holiday. I was at the watermill, actually doing some balloon modelling for the children and the crowds there, so which is good fun.
And just to clarify, so people don't get too disturbed, you mean making models out of balloons, not that you were wearing balloon.
No, making balloon models, not doing anything untoward in a balloon wearing fashion. No, mate, no, let's wash that away completely.
Yeah,
but we nearly were washed away because we're standing under a gazebo in the sunshine in the morning, in the afternoon, in torrential rain. Yeah. But good nonetheless. How about yourself? What have you been doing over the past few days?
I've actually, I was going to say had days off. I haven't had days off, but I obviously worked with you last Friday. Something like that. And had a weekend of admin, catching up because obviously I'd not long been back from tour, trying to sort new things, a couple of exciting things in the pipeline, which is great. So I had a weekendish off, got to spend time with my partner Sophie, and equally had chance to sort of pick up on missed emails and other stuff that's been going on for a while. So yeah, a bit more chilled, but life is back to a million miles an hour again now. And as it tends to be in our industry, and speaking of, I mean, we're on an exciting day today because we have our first guest of season 11, someone who I've been waiting to speak to again for a while, someone I met many years ago, very, very talented chap. We'll get into that in a bit because we should obviously deal with the inevitable, any news that's going on, and I obviously turn to you for that. So before we go to our guest spot, what have you got to fill us in on the latest happenings?
Well, I have, like yourself, been running around. I haven't gathered too much news, but I did pick up one little tidbit, and I can see the serious side of it, but I can also see it was something that made me smile. Is that as people know, when you go to the West End, many people or fans of the West, you go around to the stage door. A lot of people go around the stage door and they wave to their chosen celebrity, whoever they've been watching, and some gather autographs. And usually it's a very pleasant, and it's very rarely that a name or a celebrity or someone won't stop and chat. In the main course, most celebrities are utterly charming. They realise it's their fan base, it's their bread and butter, and they are only too happy to stand and chat. And in the main, autograph hunters and people of that ilk are good humoured as well. However, it's come to pass that it's getting a little bit, shall we say, it gets a little bit rough and tough at times at some of the stage doors. There have been incidences, and again, this is the serious side. There have been incidences of actors being jostled, celebrities being surrounded by crowds that, for one reason or another, they get slightly unruly. And crowds at stage doors, for various reasons, have become a little bit more desperate of late, because if you're clutching a program of the show you've seen, and a lot of people do this, and you get it signed by whoever is headliner, who's the name. I mean, someone like, Matthew Broderick has been doing Plaza Suite, and he's I think he's a great actor, a huge fan of his. Now, if someone had grabbed Matthew Broderick, got him to sign the program, and then put that on eBay, there is money to be made. And that, apparently, the commercialization of stage door meetings is getting quite prevalent. And because of that, there has been incidences of actors being jostled and the atmosphere being less than pleasant. I'm not going to name drop, but I've worked with a couple of names in my time, and they have been utterly charming. However, there has been the occasion where someone's got a bit rude and they've gone, that's it, right, you spoiled it for everyone, I'm going. So actors in the West End, or some, have said, can we have, like on Broadway, could we have some crash barriers around and some audience control? Now, when I read that, I realised, okay, that is serious, but also it's quite funny to hear of crowd control around the stage door of a West End theatre. That we have always prided ourselves in this country that our stage doors are open, they're friendly, and they're laid back. I'm not blaming on commercialisation, but we do have to protect people. We have to protect you and I, Sam, when we walk out of a stage door. I mean, the crush that you can be met by is non-existent. I mean, it can be, but I mean, it was a funny little story. But I thought,
and I agree. I mean, I think you're right. Well. Just to flag it, obviously, other online auction sites are available,
of course.
Yeah, but equally, I wonder if a lot of it's got to do with now that maybe a lot of autographs and stuff like that have now been replaced with selfies, and obviously for a selfie you have to.
There is that. That's a
competition for that. Equally, we're aware that stunt casting is very prevalent now. So by stunt casting, it's where a name is put into a show, not purely to sell tickets, but obviously they do make a difference. Bringing in bigger names will sell more tickets. So perhaps this is an opportunity for people to get closer to someone really famous that they might not have had before. And when you've got things like influencers in YouTube and all those massive platforms where people build this enormous following without necessarily being in the public eye in person that often, when they do that, maybe it changes it up a bit. I mean, you were saying about autographs. I remember I went backstage after a show and went to the stage door to meet someone. And there was a guy there who'd approached one of the bigger names in the show. He said, "Oh, would you mind signing something for me?" And the guy was like, "Of course, absolutely." And he pulled out this basically sports bag with easily 50, 100 CDs and books and he signed that. And you think, you are literally just going to go straight online and sell that.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting one. Let's hope that these are very much isolated incidents, because at the very least, as you said, we pride ourselves in this country, particularly on being able to queue. So
that's it. Yes.
Get in a queue and wait, you bastards. But anyway,
we can't queue over here. When can we? But no, point taken. So yes, that is that's the one little sort of interesting story. Apparently, they've had it on Broadway for years, and it works very well. So let's hope it doesn't become necessary. But if it does, it's true. Before we move on, we couldn't, and as you said, we said in the first episode, we might be out of touch or out of sync with things that have gone on. Now we as everyone knows, watching and listening, we go live on a Sunday, and this is something that happened on Sunday, and obviously missed our previous recording. The wonderful and truly great Bernard Hill passed away last Sunday, which obviously, was during, after, or whenever we went live. I just think he's a wonderful, wonderful actor. He will be probably remembered more recently for Titanic and, of course, Lord of the Rings. And we were talking before the Oscars about films that garner massive amounts of Oscar nominations. Well, there's two that had, double figures and won a lot as well. He played the captain of the Titanic in Titanic. And it was, again, something we'll talk about with our guest coming up. It was a film that changed a lot, and also a film that you watch and watch and watch and watch, and it has amazing iconic moments. And he is central to a couple of moments that, certainly for cinematography and for use of special effects, was central to the film. And the weight of his character and the weight of his playing really held that together. And he was a linchpin in that film. And it's incredible. I mean, incredible. And of course, Lord of the Rings, my favorite film franchise. Therein, it was just a wonderful character, and all the guys from Lord of the Rings have been coming out and saying, when you work with someone of that stature, it really makes the movie. But for me, I will ever remember him for Boys of the Black Stuff, for Yosser Hughes, and I think the phrase "gives a job," I can do that. I think it gave a line to the feeling of a lot of people at that particular time. It was, Alan Bleasdale is an incredible writer, but there were people in that were rising stars like Julie Walters and Bernard Hill, and at that time they weren't hugely known. You recognise them, but you didn't know. But his performance in that, it makes me weep now, and I remember watching it and just being chilled by how someone who had lost everything but yet retained their humanity pretty much up to the end is a testament to an actor of enormous stature. And those are three things. He's made so many films, many wonderful television films, programs.
I think he's one of those actors where modern generations would recognise him more visually than perhaps by name, but he'd built his name with previous generations by doing such a variety of things, such impactful film and TV. And to be able to say you were an integral part, not just part of, but an integral part, an enormous character in both Titanic and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, I don't think it comes much better, really. So yes, which will cheers
as usual. The late great Bernard Hill, fantastic actor.
Superb. Now he, I'm sure, like us, would be first to admit that you can be the best actor in the world, you can do an incredible job, but every film, TV production, theatre, all those sorts of things, they rely on a team of people to create that final outcome. And particularly when it comes to film, but equally with TV and anything else on screen, you owe a lot to the people that are capturing what you're doing as an actor. And it just so happens, is that the first segue of season 11? I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know, but it was a good one.
It's always, in particular, relevant for the team behind the cameras or capturing what's going on onto the film or onto the, as it is now, digital media. But essentially, and it just so happens that today we have a fabulous guest, a man I worked with a good few years ago, an incredibly, incredibly talented man who is responsible for doing just that, for capturing those images and managing the people who are involved in doing that. And I do believe he is in our waiting room. He is waiting right now to speak to us. Yeah. It's all about what he does. So I don't think we need to wait anymore, mate. What do you reckon?
Open the doors. Let the man in.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please meet the incredibly talented and just wonderfully nice Mr. Gary Anthony Rogers. And ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the legend that is Mr. Gary Anthony Rogers. I haven't seen you for a long bloody time, mate. How are you?
It's been a few years, hasn't it, Sam? I'm good, thank you. I am good. I am surviving. That's the main thing.
That is all we need in this industry. Drew, meet Gary. Gary, meet Drew.
Hello, Gary.
Drew, pleased to meet you, Drew.
Nice to see you, mate. Thanks very much.
People, but in very different areas of the industry, and that is why we are particularly excited to have you on today, because it's yet another area that we haven't delved into, if that's the correct phrasing, properly, really, in our 11 odd seasons that we've been doing this. you are the first person that probably has these combination of skills, should I say. And essentially, to put it simply, it's down to you to make sure that the lowly actors that Drew and I are and all the others out there actually look all right. But before we explain to everyone listening and watching exactly what I mean by that, Drew, you've not met Gary. Gary, you've not met Drew.
No, Gary, we'll find out exactly how you and Sam's your paths crossed a little bit. But for those amongst us who have not had the inestimable pleasure of meeting you, Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you actually do that does make Sam and I look a hell of a lot better than we do at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So, yes, I am a freelance DOP or director of photography. So, yeah, basically anything to do with camera. If you need anything filming, and it isn't just like film, I do corporate, I do music videos, not weddings. I have been asked to do weddings. That's not my bag. But yeah, anything. I've done commercials, just about anything, really, anything. But if I'm honest, the bulk of my work probably is film, more than anything. That seems to be where I've fallen into. So yeah, that's sort of me in a nutshell. And when you say about making actors look good, it's just getting harder, Sam, because I'm using 6K now. 6K, it's showing every wrinkle, So my job's getting harder, Sam.
Well, I mean, the problem from my perspective is, and Drew had given up on this years ago because he's been a wrinkly old man for the last 12 decades.
I know how he feels, though. I'm sorry, I sympathise with you there.
I'd just like to say that as a character actor, age and appearance mean nothing to me, my friend. I just build on them. They are my calling card.
Well, carry on. My issue is that the cameras are getting better and I'm getting older and less youthful. So it's going the wrong direction.
You've got it all to come, my friend. Yeah.
Oh, I know. Hasn't he just?
Hasn't he just, mate?
Do you know?
Wait until you turn 50. That's all I say.
I keep booking lovely people on the podcast thinking, oh, you come on and we'll have a nice old chat. And all that happens is Drew and whoever it is gang up on me every time. So I'm going to have to learn the hard way with this one, I think. But no, so as you say, film is probably your main outlet, as in tends to be film or indie films and the shorter films. But where did you actually start? How did you get to the point that you're at now?
Yeah, okay, where did I start? Gosh, so going back many, many years, I guess I probably started more with a fascination of photography, even back as far as a teenager, and that was a while ago. So my dad used to be a keen photographer, and I was always fascinated watching him in the darkroom develop photos. So I got a keen eye back as a teenager, I think, for photography. But growing up, I had this fascination with film. I think like everybody that's probably a similar age to me, Star Wars was a bit of a turning point in cinema. And I think for a lot of sort of kids, young kids, were just blown away by that. But I sort of knew from back then that I wanted to sort of get into film. Now, originally, back then, it was special effects that fascinated me. So model making, special effects, and I was adamant that's what I was going to do. But then I think it sort of just turned to camera work. When I left school, I actually said that I wanted to be a BBC cameraman back then, as when I was leaving school. Yeah, it was literally because I was sort of fascinated. Oh crikey, that it was something like Tiswas or something back in the day. I don't know whether you remember Tiswas or Swap Shop or one of those programs years ago.
I do. Sam doesn't, but carry on.
Yeah. I've seen it in the archives. Does that count?
I thought you might, but there was a guy called Matt Irvine who, I think it was Matt Irvine. He was the BBC visual effects guy, back in early days of Doctor Who, where he'd be on one of these Saturday morning programs showing you how they used to make spaceships out of washing up bottles, and they literally did. That sounds a bit of a cliche, but that is exactly what they used to do. So anyway, yeah, when I said I wanted to get into camera work, I got talked out of it. Basically, it's so hard to do and so hard to get into places like the BBC. Computers are the future. Electronics, computing. And I went down a path of being an electronics engineer, basically, for many years in industry. And started making films as a hobby, literally with friends, with like terrible camera equipment, not knowing what we was doing, but just going off and shooting short films. And you slowly sort of then meet the right people along the way that were keen to produce, short films. So we made a bunch of horror films, shorts that did okay on some competitions we did. One ended up on a program called The Fear. I don't know whether you heard of it. It was going back a few years now.
Yeah, there's that very vague bell, but yes, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so it was a BBC Three program at the time where they put on a bunch of short horror films in front of an audience, filmed the reactions, and then judged which was the scariest. And I was quite proud of the fact that ours actually got it got edited. They re-edit and cut some part of it so you couldn't see this. It was called chest worm. I won't go into details, but this person basically cuts their throat and pulls a worm out of their throat. My friend at the time, Neil Stevens, was an amazing makeup guy, like prosthetics and sculptor. And I actually cut that out. And it got a great reaction regardless, but I sort of digress a little bit. So that's sort of how I started. Now, I guess my first, what I would say, proper gig was, and I'm trying to think what year it was. It must be 10, 12 years ago, I think, at least. And it was a film called Bigger and Badder. So it was a Birmingham-based short horror film. Everybody on it was working at the BBC at the time, when it was still in Birmingham, Pebble Mill and all of that. They had a camera and a cameraman, but it was DSLR at the time, a Canon DSLR that they was planning on filming on. I had just brought a brand new Sony that had just come out. It was revolutionary at the time. It was, trying to think the name of this camera. Oh my gosh, it was a 1080 camera, but it was sort of a first box kind of cinema camera that they'd released. And I brought that. A friend of mine who was working on it, I think it was Neil actually, and his friend doing the werewolf makeup effects, had just mentioned it to them that I'd had this new camera, and they was like, it'd be great to film with that, and sort of invited me on with, basically because of my camera, not because of me, because of my camera.
Yeah.
So I went on it, and I was absolutely just crapping myself at the time, because these guys actually were in the industry and I wasn't. It was their passion project, but they all knew what they was doing. And I remember the sound guy coming over. He wanted to plug in his equipment and various things, and he was like, okay, so where do I go with, the sound menus to do this? And I'm like, I didn't have a clue. I only had the camera a week. I didn't even know. I was like really bluffing this thing. So it was one of those, I sort of bluffed my way through it. We got through it, and it turned out great. Fortunately, it turned out great. and sort of things went from there, if I'm honest. That came out, that did okay, that did all right. It is on YouTube, actually, that.
We'll dig it out then and try and link it.
Yeah, so
definitely.
Yeah, it's been on YouTube now for a while. So Bigger and Badder short film. That should find it. So you can see some of my really early work there.
That's very brave of you, mate, because I wouldn't be telling people where to find my early work. Not that I'm casting aspersions, of course. But
that's true, actually. Yeah.
I mean, I probably wouldn't if it was my own short film. Probably the very first short film we shot, I probably wouldn't show anyone. But, you know, that had a lot of talent. It even had... it had a good cast. It had Larry Rue in it, who... Larry Rue, God bless his soul, died... It was within the last 2 years he passed away. But he's been in some great things like... I always remember him from Underworld's Rise of the Lycans, I think it was.
Yeah. Wow.
And he was the bad dude with a whip, I seem to remember, in that film. A very distinctive looking guy. So I was in a little bit of awe anyway at that, you know, oh my God, because I love those films, and it's Larry Rue, he was in Underworld, you know. So yeah, it was a good cast. So regardless of my camera work, it was a good story and a good cast. It's a fun film. So yeah, go and check that out for sure. Yeah.
Now I'm going to do something now, because we get as you know, as we say a lot, we get people on from different parts of the industry, and they discuss what they do. Now, Sam and I, yourself, we're on film sets a lot, and we work with crews, and we all know pretty much what's going on. But you went back there and you said, you know, when you're blagging it, and I get, I go, they go, oh, that's the DOP, that's the first, that's the second, that you know, and you talk to people and they go, what are you talking about? They go, oh, you know, anybody outside the industry, and I sit and watch TV programs and films with my elderly mum, and she goes, what does he do? There's a lot of people on there. And you go on a film set, you see a camera surrounded by 5 or 6 guys. And I remember the first time I went on a film set, I was like, now I know they've all got jobs, but I couldn't tell you what they were. And So I'm going to get you to do it for all those people. And we do get wonderful people listening, watching that are not in the industry, wouldn't know. So take us through. You're DOP, you're the director of photography. We know what you do. There's a camera there, very often with a cameraman. Who else is surrounding you, and who is your team on a shoot? If you've got a full screen, if you're not pairing it right back, you know, and we're not just talking, you know, camera, and you're doing everything. Who is your team, and what are they doing around that set?
Okay, so sure. So, as a director of photography, technically, your job is bringing the director's vision to life by liaising with the director and knowing what their vision is. So regardless of the size of film, first off, I will always ask that question and try and let them give me a visual representation. I'll say, look, send me some film stills of how you see, you know, how you compare this. Is it 7? Is it dark? Is it moody? Is it bright, colourful? You know, muted colours, colourful. So I kind of get the vibe of what the director wants. So the director of photography then has to somehow produce that. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, then a lot of that is to do with lighting. So chatting to the gaffer and their crew of saying, well, this is the vibe we need to create, and maybe this is how we need to light it. So that's more the director of photography's job rather than anything to do with the camera. So what you would normally then have these people around me would be a cam op, so a person that is operating the camera. So you're instructing them as to, well, you know, we're starting off with a wide shot, whatever the shots are, whatever the camera movement is the movement, is it static, is it erratic? So you're then having to tell the cam op what you want them to do. Then next to that, you will have your first AC, which is the first assistant camera. And again, that's quite a responsible job, because it's their job to look after the camera physically and all of the needs of the camera. So they'll have been told what lens we're putting on. It's their responsibility to build the camera at the beginning of the shoot, put it together, check it out. Is everything working? And generally they will be pulling focus as well. So they'll be there around a monitor, focusing the camera. The cam op is just moving the camera as whatever they've been told. And then, depending on the size of the project, you might well have a second AC and a third AC even. I mean, like the second AC, for argument's sake, the first AC may be relaying right to a second AC, go and swap me this lens, go and get me that, or pass this to me, and they will put it on the camera. And the second AC might be keeping the camera logs, which, again, on the bigger films, everything you do with that camera is recorded. And a lot of people don't see that, because generally on an indie shoot, you won't get that.
Yeah.
I can give you an example of why it is actually important. So what they will log is, right, the camera has a 50mm lens. It's set to f-stop 2. It's at colour, sort of the colour temp is 5,200 Kelvin. They will measure the height of the camera. It's 1.2 meters off the ground, and it's 2 meters from the talent. Now, you might think of just initially that, wow, do you really need to know what all that information? But the reason they do that is, as soon as you switch round to perhaps a different angle, so it's a two-way conversation, and then you're moving round to shoot the other actor, you want to set that camera the same distance and the same height, so it's a matching shot. But on a shoot I did where I was actually a first AC rather than a DP a couple of years ago, we did have to pick a shot up. Something happened, I can't remember. We had to go back and redo a scene, or part of a scene, and without that information, you just wouldn't have remembered. You know, you wouldn't have known where the camera was and what height it was or how far away it was. So yeah, you know, that information can be really important. Depending on the shoot. Like I say, it's very rare you get that on sort of the lower indie shoots, but yeah, it can be really important. So that I think that's sort of the main people in an ideal world what we would have around the camera.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. And as you say, you've got your gaffer who's dealing with the lighting team. You've got the sound guys. So whether that's just a boom operator on a smaller project, or whether you've got a sound director as well as operators. And there are so many different people that then come in.
Yeah.
But it's all surrounding, because as you actually talked about earlier, a lot of it connects into that main camera, into that central camera. So you've got sort of connect with people, and the DOP, what people would assume is the guy who runs the camera, actually, as you said, doesn't often have all that much to do with the camera itself. It's about managing the people who are controlling it. So it's a much bigger, broader part of the team than perhaps is initially evident to most people. But as said, the key person to making sure that we look good and that everything is running right, and that the end product, when you put everything in, it just comes out at what the director wants and what is a good final sort of representation. So you have to have, obviously, a very close relationship when on set with the director, because they can have these images in their head, but it's your job as DOP to kind of take their ideas and make them reality.
Yeah, yeah. I scouted over a point, and an important point, actually. So I won't mention any names as far as directors go or whatever, but there was a director that wanted a specific look, and he gave me some examples. Strong reds were mentioned, I seem to recall. Only God Forgives, I think, was one film. There was strong red element. There was always red in every single scene that carried through the entire story. So that was mentioned. But anyway, when it came to the actual shoot, early on, I relayed the fact that, well, okay, that there's a lot of artistic design, of set design and artistic direction that needs to be done, because you can't create a look of a film in camera and in lighting alone. So if there are like, I want red to play an important part, or blue or whatever, the art department will also know this information, and they will dress accordingly. The colour of walls and props and everything will play into getting that look. You can't actually do it just within a grade. You can go a long way in a grade, but I remember getting to set with this director, and I'd spoken to the art department beforehand, and they wasn't quite. I got the impression they hadn't been relayed the information.
Right.
So even from early on that shoot, you couldn't really achieve what was being asked, because these colours weren't being introduced by the art department, because they wasn't really part of the original conversation.
Yeah.
So, the communication between all departments is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. I mean, don't underestimate the power of art department.
No,
so important.
No, indeed.
Absolutely.
So important.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we talked about, your part in your work and how you create stuff. Tell us, what have you got? I mean, actually, I'm going to go back a bit. Wait, how did you and Sam work together? Because that was it. What did you guys work on? That's what I wanted to know. I'll reel us back a bit. Where did you meet the wonderful Sam Dunning that I've spent so many happy hours working with and annoying?
Go for it, Sam. So it was on that film, wasn't it? Blade of the Assassin.
It was indeed, and it's actually
that was the first, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Interestingly, we had, as you're aware, Gary, we had Tony Hopia on the show a few weeks and months back, who was director of Blade of the Assassin. And you, of course, were on I think the first unit when I first worked on the film, DOP then. So we met during a scene where I was representing one of many. I was going to say hooligans. Hooligans isn't the right word. They were minions. They were essentially bodyguards, whatever you want to call it, around this sort of central bad character. And you spent the day filming me getting. I think I got stabbed in the neck. One of the other guys got put through a table.
The art department has let me down, Gary. I'm just gonna fix them. Carry on.
You sort that, Drew. You sort that. For anyone not watching on YouTube, Drew's sign, as it tends to do quite regularly, has fallen down. So he's putting it.
We're back.
But it's fine. We'll ignore that happen. But yes, so we spent the day. You obviously had a fantastic day watching people getting beaten up by a young female. Basic, not samurai.
Was that Claudia McKell, or was that one of the other girls? Actually,
was it Claudia that day? I can't remember who was on the first day.
I'm trying to think of the other girl's name now, because it's been so long. So we estimated earlier it was possibly 2019.
I think it was, yeah. So it was certainly pre our visit from the unwelcome guest, as we like to refer
Yeah.
to it. Um, but so if it was back in 2019, it will have been, God, who will have been on that day? So I don't think Claudia was in that day. So was Gemma in? So there's a fantastic actress called Gemma Wallace. I think she may have been in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if it wasn't Claudia, it will have been Sophie Reed, who
Sophie, that's who I was trying to think.
Yes.
Sophie, yes, it probably was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I think it certainly on first unit. I think it was Sophie, and then I think later on. I mean, I worked with obviously various of the leads throughout that. Because it was my first foray into the world of stunting, really, or one of my first.
Okay.
Because obviously operating both as a stunt performer and an actor in that one. But yeah, so we met on the set of that, and it was just, I mean, I guess it's a baptism, Drew will say, it's a baptism of fire meeting me in any scenario, but on a day where I was getting beaten the shit out of, probably fairly entertaining. But I'm going to pick up, Drew, where I think you were going next, because you asked obviously how we met, but I believe you were going to say, Gary, tell us what you've got going on at the moment, because I know you're plainly busy. But to give us a brief overview of just what you've got in the pipeline and going on at the moment.
Right, okay, so yeah, at the moment, halfway through a horror film for John Williams. So Werewolf film. That's, crikey, I think it's a bit of a stretch, this one, because we've got 12 days scheduled. We're halfway through that. The script was actually something like 240 pages. So 12 days, yeah, we was pushing it a bit. So there's going to be a few extra days on that. So there's another 4 or 5 days to go on that one. But yeah, this weekend we also started a film called Falcon for Noel White. Now, Noel, great guy. Gosh, he'd probably be somebody to speak to as well on a
we'll certainly try and connect
episode, actually, because Noel has done videography for some of the world's biggest pop stars, as in Elton John. I'm talking like massive stars. So he's got some incredible stories to tell you. So I will have to pass on some details.
Yeah, please do.
Please do.
So, yeah, he wrote this film a good few years ago. He's tried getting it off the ground, and he's now self-funding it. So it is a low budget. It is a low budget film, and it revolves around sort of a wheelchair-bound veteran who it's the day-to-day life struggles of what this girl's been through. And what she's facing now, she's on a bad estate, and she comes across some hassle with some lads on the estate. I won't go into too much detail, but one gets injured, and there's this sort of relationship that arises through her actions. And again, it's a nice sort of drama. It's quite a hard-hitting drama, but at the same time, quite an uplifting story at the end,
Amazing.
So yeah, that's, and hence the mug that I am drinking
again,
from at the minute. The merchandise.
Viewers will have spotted the amazing
Falcon.
Yeah. So a huge variety of stuff all going on at once, which obviously is the nature of what we do. People may sort of be under the impression that something starts and you just keep going until it's done, but actually you've got multiple things on at once.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, funnily enough, there's actually a third one that started as well, which I forgot to mention, which is for Phil Tommy. Now, Phil, he's a Birmingham-based stunt guy doing remarkably well at the moment. He's not long been off doing Gladiator 2.
Wow.
Amongst so many other big productions. And again, he's a writer, really great guy. And he's got a script that we've now got a producer on board who he's speaking to many people to get that funding for that film. Fingers crossed, it's not looking too bad. He's doing a great job pursuing some money for it. So we have shot a few days of that, really to, I suppose, to get a proof of concept more than anything, to get a feel for it, to show people. So that's going to be a Birmingham-based production. There are some great people that will be involved with that, which, again, some of the people that Phil knows, some of his stunt crew that have come off some incredible productions, a guy called Adam Basil. I mean, some of the things he's done, just off the top of my head, it was The Last of Us. He gets involved with a lot of creature type characters. So he was it a creature called the Bloater in The Last of Us series?
So, yeah,
I think, and he was the guy in that costume. He was the actor inside the Beast costume, as in Beauty and the Beast. I think it was the one with Emma Watson, was it? I think. Off the top of my head. So, he's been involved in a lot of big stuff, so he's on board. Lots of people off some nice productions. So hopefully as well that all helps in sort of getting the funding for it. So yeah, that's actually a third one at the moment that's bubbling away under the surface, so to speak.
Incredible.
So you're not. It's true to say you're not idle. You are slogging away, Gary. We, unfortunately, I mean, now you'll be able to say, of course, when you're working, so, well, of course, Gary Rogers off of Drewling Samantics. It's a calling card, mate. It's a calling card. But I mean, sadly, I mean, it's been fascinating and brilliant. And we say to all our guests, you're going to have to come back, catch us up with everything that you've got on the slate and you're working on. But wind us up, Gary, with, as we always do, with something, a story, an anecdote from what I can only assume is we know now is an extremely busy workload. Have you got something that you like to tell and dine out on? One of those?
Oh gosh, I mean, trying to think of anything. You just never know what's going to happen. Actually, so I've always prided myself on being a pretty mild-mannered person on set. And I think most people will echo that to you, as the guy that never seems to get stressed or angry. And I think, funnily enough, it was on Blade of the Assassin. I'm pretty sure it was. So we were at that golf course. If you remember, it was this, I don't even know whether it was being used. But anyway, it was on lots of ground around this beautiful place. I think at this point it was about 2:00 in the morning. So the one thing that tends to start stressing you out is when you get to early hours of the morning and you're tired and it's pitch black and you're outside and it's cold.
Yeah.
I seem to remember there was two things actually that started really making me sort of get away from my mild-mannered. We was outside, it was pitch black. I had my camera in my hand, which was a red Dragon at that time. Nice camera. They're not cheap. There was a piece of, we was outside, there was, for one, a piece of low-lying barbed wire, which nobody could see, and I went over it and tripped over that. So that was, and okay, that was all right. I'd survived that one and still had a smile on my face. Most likely. But then I remember I was told, okay, we could probably get this shot from in this field just over this fence, which I went into, and it was pitch black. I mean, we hadn't got any lights up, which was always a mistake. Get working lights up.
Yeah.
I had the camera in hand. I didn't see a log that I tripped over. The camera, I obviously fell over. The camera went down onto the ground, but landed in a fresh cowpat.
Oh,
it was you know, what are the odds? But it went into a cow part, and I lost my shit then at that point. One of the few times I did lose my shit, and I was like, swear words were emanating from me.
Dare I say it? But you lost your shit when you found the shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was fair enough, to be honest. Everybody was just staring. They didn't know what to say because it was the first time anyone saw me actually lose my temper and swear on set.
We certainly know for future how to avoid making you angry. But Gary, as Drew said, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great to talk to you guys.
It's pleasure. It's been an honour to have you. And please do come back soon and tell us a bit more. So
we'll do, yeah. We'll have to catch up again, no doubt. Soon.
Absolutely. Take care, mate. We'll speak to you again very soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, see you guys.
Gary, thanks ever so much, mate.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Gary Rogers. Now calm. I'm facing what can only be described as a hell of a lot of work coming up, but thank him for coming and dropping. It was great. It was really obviously very busy, spared his time as usual, and took his time to discuss all things film. Now, I love the fact that we got some. We did literally go behind the camera with Gary there, which I really loved. And for anybody that doesn't know all that jargon, he has just explained it beautifully. Beautifully.
He's the epitome of film for me, and in the sense of a crew that works as a team, because he is a central point. He works with so many different people and manages so many different areas, but creates stunning imagery at the same time, and is able to sort of do those things simultaneously. And it just kind of shows you what's required, but equally what is so important for making good film, good TV. Very talented, very knowledgeable, very calm and collected, which on a film set, unless you're throwing your camera in a lump of shit, it is always beneficial. So yeah, just a really lovely man. I cross my fingers and hope that I get to work with him again soon. Yeah. I'm sure I'll see him soon, because you never know. Blade of the Assassin may finally be released. Tony did say it was going to happen soon, didn't he? But yes, no, just another very talented man, and a really important and interesting insight into another area of the industry that doesn't get enough publicity, doesn't get talked about all that much. But without it, we wouldn't be anywhere.
It's true. I mean, you only see those people in the credits rolling at the end of a film, or the end of a, on the TV at night, and they go unsung. But we've said it before. There are so many of these people. Without them, you'd have a blank screen. And literally, in Gary's case, you'd have a blank screen.
Well, yeah, exactly that.
It's he has to be applauded. And as you say, we will get him back, because he's got a lot happening, a lot that he's still filming. So we'll get back and catch up with that in the future. But so once again, thank you very much, Gary, for being insightful and very, very interesting. Lovely guy.
But equally, what a git, because he set that standard so high, and then next week, what have we got to offer? Well,
2 gits.
Yeah, 2 gits. Yeah, so we're going to double our gits.
Mate.
Although actually, technically, we could say we're going from 3 down to 2. But no, so it is just me and thee next week, sir. Yeah. But so much to discuss, lots going on in the industry, all sorts of things that are on the horizon for both of us as well. So we're going to give some insight into those over the coming weeks. And we're trying to do a few new bits and pieces as well. So those could be quite interesting. And obviously we're building up to future guests as well. So I'm quite looking forward to next week, mate. I don't know about you.
Well, I mean, we're not going to have a chance to work together. So we're going to have to do it next week. Otherwise, I won't know how you are.
Well, that is very true.
Have to catch up.
We haven't got the added bonus of a show together this week. We have got another one coming up soon, though. And you never know, if we get our act together, mate, maybe we could do some filming there and some recording then. We've done that before. Your bloody sign's gone again.
Gone again, mate. That's a hint. The art department have let me down.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed listening or watching Gary, what he had to tell us about today. Hugely fascinating. But we will make you one solemn promise that next week, Drew's fucking sign will stay up on the wall. And again,
Sam, we opened the program. We opened the episode by saying it's hot. It's hot, sticky in it. That's what it is. I'm melting
Well, yes,
I'm melting.
Yes. Drew's room is melting. I'm melting in general. I'm going to finish my beer. We'll be back next time, and who knows, maybe the set won't fall apart. But if you're listening to us, that makes the slightest bit of difference.
No.
So tune in again anyway. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.